Good morning, good day, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Shout out to you. This is Mic Check Monday, or your weekly podcast briefing. Of course, I'm DaniMarie. Welcome to the room where we build authority, ownership, and income through our voice. And if you're here live, I want you to comment live in the chat. If you're catching the replay, comment the word replay. Today, we're talking about something serious: ownership, AI disruption, ad overload, and what separates the podcasters who are serious in building big business versus the hobbyist podcasters here in 2026. You guys, this industry is changing quickly, and it's important that you all stay abreast. And so that's why I am here, DaniMarie, your podcast bestie, the podcast strategist and mentor, teaching you what you need to know so you can stay on top of things. Let's jump right into it. Normally, this would be the time where we give shout outs with our new members who are joining Plans to Podcast on Facebook. But I got a lot of news for you guys. So last week, my podcast group is no more. As of last week, my Plan to Podcast community, which had 3,300 plus members, basically is paused right now because I'm no longer the admin and there was no other admin appointed to the space. So here we are. I'm going to unpack a lot of that in this week. So starting tomorrow, we're talking about how I lost my 3,000 plus members on Facebook. The day after that, we're talking about what losing your Facebook group means. On Thursday, we're talking about why creators must be platform agnostic or omnipresent across platforms, and how to build online business ecosystem. So make sure you guys are following and subscribe to me. It is DaniMarie on YouTube, because from Tuesday to Friday, I'm going to be unpacking all four of those important topics. So I'm going to give you the full scoop of what happened, and then we're going to get into how do you move on after you lose all of your members. So no need to fret. No need to fret if you have systems in place. So we'll cover some of that. I'm not going to dive into it too much today because this is the weekly podcast briefing. But I said all of that to say, normally we would shout out our MVP, most valuable podcasters, and our admin of our group. But right now we are in a transition. And so shout out to any one of you who are podcasting and you hit those rough patches. It becomes hard to stay consistent. You're trying to learn the industry and build at the same time. You're going through the ebbs and the flows. You hit a plateau. Shout out to you, because our platforms are so important. If not any time before this time is extremely important. As you guys know, we're in a war right now. There are people in higher places who are trying to erase history, trying to silence our voices, whether that is in our school curriculums or whether that is in our museums. And so our platforms are extremely important. We need to be speaking out more than ever before, even if it's not about everything happening in politics and in pop culture. Just to have a platform and a safe space where you can talk about the things that matter to you and invite other people to be able to dialogue and talk about those same things. That is why it's so important. On top of that, and I'm going to talk about this more, like I said, over the next couple of days, I'm noticing more and more platforms are getting their followings and accounts taken away from them. So it lets you know the state of the affairs that we're in, the climate is all important. And again, that's why I'm here. I'm here to bring it to you guys front and center so you can get the inside scoop, because I know a lot of you guys are managing podcasting in your full-time life. I do this full-time, so I could be reporting to you when you cannot be as connected and understand what's really going on behind the scenes. So no MVP shout out, except shout out to all of you, and no moderator recognition, even though every person that I appointed to be a moderator, I believe to be good people. You guys have to follow along for the next couple of days to get more on all of that. But now is the segment where I talk about the things that I watched in this past week. So my reaction clip segment, I don't care what you love. This is about what I love. If you love it too, then okay, we can talk. I love Earn Your Leisure. Again, I know that there's hate that comes from all different sides, no matter who you are. If you're growing a platform, if you are visible, if you are public and front facing, you're going to get the hate, especially if what you're doing is changing the narrative or disrupting the narrative or, doing something for the culture. There seems to always come with hate. Speaking of which, not to be all over the place, but Black Sam, we'll talk about him later too, but they were just trying to say that the shooting that happened yesterday happened at the Long Beach Marathon Burger. So we've seen this happen and pan out before, where anytime we try to have a leg up, there's always some hate that comes with it to try to undercut or demise what we're doing. And you know who I'm talking about. So we get hate from all different ends. But when it comes to my clip reaction video, I love Earn Your Leisure because they're talking about business and finance, the most two important things that we should all be paying close attention to today. They talk about investing, your investment portfolio, and all of those things. And this past week, they had a gentleman by the name of Jeff Frommer, who is the founder of Malka. I could be saying that wrong, who sold his company for $75 million. But he revealed it's still in a lawsuit. And he only got, I believe, $10 million cash, which he had to split with himself and his partner. The other portion is still up in litigations. And he was talking about that is big business. You could be the small fish in the pond. And if you don't have the money or the fortitude and the capacity to really fight and advocate for yourself, someone can come in and take your business. It reminds me of the conversation we had in my podcast virtual meetup on Saturday. We talked about the same thing happening to Fawn Weaver and Berner, who is, the founder of Cookies. If you are into herbal essence, marijuana, I'm talking about then. But yeah, we keep seeing how these things pan out, especially to communities of color. But Jeff was, if I'm not mistaken, a white guy, and talking about, investments should not just be allotted for the 1%. You should be able to invest and you should be able to make a living for yourself. And, rightfully so, if you come up and you are the founder of this idea and you build it up to be this really big enterprise and you sell it for $75 million, you expect the transaction to be the transaction and to go through. But he's still in litigation. There's still a lawsuit. And so let me share that clip first. It wasn't just about this clip in particular, but just everything when it comes to investing, when it comes to building, when it comes to becoming the founder of something, when it comes to you are the creator and the mastermind behind a lot of different podcast platforms. And he was, in the full grand scheme of things, he was basically saying that we have creative control. And right now we have, as creators, we have the power. We have the power because we're building these platforms, and you can say, hey, I have this X amount of followers who are following me. I know that if I say go buy this one thing, that they'll buy because they trust me. And it's not that you're doing it to abuse the relationship and rapport you have with your following, but it's because you've built the trust and you've built the rapport. And if you're honest and you lead with integrity, then they will likely follow your lead on things. And so that gives you control. And so that's, again, why this conversation about ownership and AI and all of those things is important when we're in a climate where a lot of people are nervous about their jobs in corporate spaces, or if you are a creator and you do like flyers and media and all of that stuff, like AI is moving so quickly that it's all up in the air for a lot of people. But as a creator, you still have the upper hand. So I'm going to share this clip and I'm going to stop rambling. Again, This is the recent episode of Earn Your Leisure. I think it came out last Tuesday or Thursday. Typically Thursdays. So let me make sure I'm sharing. And again, if you're watching this live, comment live. If you're catching the replay, comment the word replay. I'm sharing my screen, and we are going to get out of here in the next 30 minutes, you guys. We're not going to be here long. I like to give you guys the nuggets, and I like to go move on. I have clients and things I need to take care of. Here we go.
Because you have distribution, and that, in my view, is one of the last two remaining moats left in this world, in a world where AI will democratize access to entrepreneurship and content creation, which is distribution and trust. And those two things are not the same, right? Like, you guys may have distribution, people may tune in and listen to you, but do they trust you, right? And that's where I think a lot of the knowledge creators, people that are doctors or teachers, might have small niche followings. Those are the ones that will really monetize their audience way more than some entertainment creator who dances and makes funny things and has 10 million followers. But the thing is once they try and provide value to their audience that isn't a giggle or a laugh, right? That audience doesn't know them for that. And so it's hard for them to take a passion and turn that into a profit, right?
You're right.
Yeah. Sorry for that.
That is so real. So that's another reason why I personally, even though you'll see me dancing every now and again, that's because I felt that in that moment. But I never tried to, and I'm still learning. So I'm not the expert. I'm still learning what my lane is. But I never wanted to become the person who's just good for dancing on social media, like a lot of people who you find on like TikTok or Instagram. Even though that's good and that helps you get followers quickly, it's harder to convert those followers if they only know you to be the person in entertainment, right? So, I mean, they just want you to entertain them, and they're not typically going to be the same people that convert to a long-time customer or come over to join your community. So I try to be very mindful of that when I'm building my platform and as I'm building my platform. But he has a point. If you carve out a niche and a lane for yourself, especially if you could provide education and entertainment, we call it edutainment in the creator space, then you, 9 times out of 10, you probably have carved out a lane for yourself that creates longevity over term. But if you started off like, I'm just a dancer, I'm just an entertainer, you see this a lot of times in like the reality TV world. It's hard for people who are in reality TV to convert. Not saying that you can't, because we know a lot of people who have, but it's just hard when you start in one space, especially if it has like a negative connotation, for then people to take you seriously. So again, he was speaking to the upper hand or the advantage of being a creator with a platform, and to put a pin in it, having 50,000 as opposed to millions of followers is not a bad thing. It means that you've, again, carved out a lane. You have this very niche community, and those people are likely to be people who then convert or stay with you long term. So I love that. I will make sure to try to link that. But again, you can go find the episode, the latest episode on Earn Your Leisure, I believe from last week. Again, his name, I think, was Jeff Frommer. I was going to say I think, but I got it. Jeff Frommer. Now the other one, or let me just unpack this a bit more. He said distribution and trust are the last two moats. That's elite thinking. AI is leveling out the playing field. Anyone can create content now. It's not hard. You just need to know how to prompt. But not everyone has just distribution. So there's podcast distribution. And if you have an email list, you're distributing to those people who are on your email list. Not everyone, though, has trust with those people. I think I like to say that I have built trust. A lot of people know me. Like, people reach out to me a lot of times and say, hey, I see you all the time on social media talking about podcasting. What do you do? Can you help me? Those are the type of conversations and calls and direct messages that I get a lot of times. And I think it's because I've built that trust. A lot of people are referred to me for building the trust over time. Can people say the same thing about you? And it's not to say like, good, bad, or indifferent. Just saying, if you plan on doing this for a long time, you need to be someone that people see on multiple platforms. You need to be establishing that trust with your audience. And they need to be able to trust that you're showing up consistently to do the thing you say you're going to do. Podcasters who build trust will dominate. He emphasized equity over ads. Instead of taking one-off promo money, he's teaching creators to negotiate ownership in brand deals and in brands that they believe in. Again, long-term thinking. So it's not good to just be, I know user-generated content is extremely important. We're saying do that, but it's best when you do that with a company you actually believe in and a company that you would actually use. And then that's easy to convey and convert your audience because they believe you. They see you using the product. It's a, organic situation as opposed to, good example, the guy, the CEO of McDonald's right now. I'm sure many of you guys have already saw. He was trying to convince people of this new burger, but you could tell it's probably not anything that he eats. Even though he's the CEO of McDonald's, he had a hard time conveying to the people watching that he actually eats the burger because he looked disgusted trying to eat this McDonald's burger. We know that these burgers are not healthy, and we've seen people leave the burgers out for like years and there's no mold or anything on the burger. So we know like why even himself probably did not want to eat that burger. But it's easier when you believe in a product to convey that to your audience because they've seen you use this product. They look at you and they believe that you actually use this product. So that's another point. And then the hard truth, exits aren't glamorous. This guy still is waiting on $65 million after he exited and sold his company. So he's responsible for platforms like All the Smoke and others. And he sold his company, the media company, but only has gotten $10 million out of the deal. And he's still in lawsuit and litigation for the rest. So he revealed that stock-based deals and earnouts can fall apart. And if you don't understand contracts, you don't own your outcome. Furthermore, he said, you need to do your diligence. So understanding your contract and then understanding the person that you're in contract with. Do you trust and believe that person? Because now these people were they saw his vulnerability and sold him a dream. And now they're trying to basically squeeze everything out of him as a small fish in the pond because they're big corporations and they can do that. So we have to be vigilant as well. All right. Now, the other episode I want to share with you guys, let me make sure. My guy, Black Sam. I'm not familiar with the podcast. This is my first time listening to the podcast, but Black Sam, if you don't know, the older brother of the late, great Nipsey Hussle. I can't say I have a favorite artist in the world, but Nipsey Hussle probably would take the cake. And it's because I followed his journey. I believed in his journey. And then you see he was the right person to follow because look at his legacy. It still continues. The marathon continues. And his family is basically doing everything that Nipsey said he was going to do and more. And so you just know that he was honest, he was earnest, he was real, and he's missed. So Black Sam, he said a lot in this episode. Everything from wishing his brothers, what's the politically correct thing to say, because I don't want to get in trouble, but his brother's murderer, his brother's killer, he wishes that he was still out and that the streets could have got a hold of him instead of him being in jail and kind of safe right now. But he let it be clear that there's still people who are not happy with the outcome. And I'll just get that out the way off the top. But then also, he also said, you know, a lot of other things, just like what it means to carry the legacy out, what it means to carry out his brother's dreams, right? You know, they just got granted Nipsey Hussle Square, so you had the mayor out over this past weekend. They just opened another Marathon Burger location in Long Beach. And I mean, they have all of these amazing partnerships, all of these amazing deals. And I think the next place they're going to move the Marathon Burger to is in New York. Shout out to Nipsey. If you, this whole AI thing that we talk about, if you know Nipsey, he was already on it. So we love Nipsey for so many reasons, but we love Black Sam for just kind of like taking the torch and going forward. Even as the big brother, he talked about he had to be humbled a few times because at some point, his younger brother, Nipsey, was exposed to more things than Black Sam was. So then now he had to yield to that, yield to his little brother. So I just respect Black Sam. I'm happy that he's safe, that the whole Marathon team is safe after the shooting that happened, I think yesterday or the day before. But shout out to him. So let me play the clip. You got to stay vigilant. You know, the book is already written. We already know how the outcome, how it's all going to pan out. So shout out to Black Sam again. I'm happy that everybody's good. I don't know now how to get rid of this off my face. Hold on, you guys. It's always something. All I did was move one thing that didn't have nothing to do with my camera, and I'm suddenly moved out. All right, hold on. Okay. I'm somewhere else, but I think I'm on desktop 1 and desktop 2, and I'm scared to close it. All right, so boom, that worked out. And then I'm still trying to figure out. Hey, Marquise. Hey, Taylor. Shout out to all of you guys watching. Again, if you're catching the replay, comment replay when you see this. But if you're catching this live, comment the word live. All right. I'm trying to remove this. It's always something. Because I just keep seeing the picture of Nipsey and Black Sam. I'm like, let me remove this, but it won't let me. Okay, boom. There we go. Y'all. And this is why you got to learn your platforms. Another pro tip. Okay. Because I just started using StreamYard again after so many different changes. But nonetheless, let's go back. Let's go back, shall we? So we're talking about, or we did talk about why I enjoyed listening to Earn Your Leisure this past week, and then why I enjoyed listening to this episode with Black Sam. Again, I'm not familiar with the podcasters platform who featured Black Sam. I am pleased of he asked some real hard-hitting questions, just like, even to be so tough to ask about, are you happy with the outcome of the man that's killed your brother allegedly still safe? He's still out here moving, even though he's not out here in civilian life moving. He's still alive. How do you feel about that? So just shout out to him for asking the hard-hitting questions. And then I wanted to talk to you guys about the word of the day, because of course we tried to give you some vocabulary words. So you actually know, like when we talk about certain things, you actually know and can keep up. And then you understand why these topics are important, or these titles are important in this vocabulary. So the word of the day is Evergreen Authority. Last week, we talked about evergreen content. Evergreen Authority is building episodes that, number one, position you as the expert. 2, solve ongoing problems. 3, remain relevant 6 months from now. 4, trend content get spikes. So trending content, yes, it'll be, you'll have the ebb and flow, but evergreen content means like no matter what people are doing the research all of the time about this particular topic. And especially now with the help of AI, somebody could type in a keyword that you covered in your episode, and then AI will show them your episode or your podcast platform or your YouTube channel as a result. So I want to ask you guys this. If every platform disappeared tomorrow, what would you still own? Start commenting in the chat. If every platform disappeared tomorrow, what would you still own? Again, Evergreen Authority. Evergreen Authority. Going back to what I told you guys at the top of the show, no longer having my community of 3,300 plus people. Now, what I know is only a fraction of those people were still engaging with the content. So it's not a complete loss. I also know about the importance of keeping a backup plan and then having a solid email list and then building community on and offline and being platform agnostic. So again, we'll talk more about that over the next course of days. But for you, if you lost access to your group, do you have a backup plan? Are you keeping an email list? Do you have some different ways that you engage with your followers, your listeners, your supporters? How do you do that? Some of you guys are only on one platform. You're putting all of your effort and your eggs in one basket. and that's a missed opportunity on your end. So drop it in the chat because we need to know. We want to know. All right, let's get into the main topic before I wrap. The main topic. Oh no, hold on. Audacy or Odyssey, I said Audacy. Odyssey adds YouTube distribution to Creator Lab. So Odyssey, Audacy, is a hosting platform now that allows podcasters to distribute long-form video directly from YouTube while monetizing audio ads. Again, the conversations in the industry are forever changing. What does this mean? Audio-only thinking is outdated. Video distribution is now expected. So last week we talked about this. We said audio is still king, and I think that is still the case. However, what I believe now to be true is you need both. You need and, not or. You need them both. And if you feel comfortable doing audio only, great. You should be working your mindset, building up the stamina to eventually start doing video as well. And video doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be front facing. You could use some AI, or you can use a doppelganger, or you could use your cover art for your podcast and add the audio underneath it and put it up as a YouTube video. But people are expecting to see you. Again, going back to that trust factor, they trust you more when they see you. It also means podcast has surpassed spoken word radio. So for the first time ever, podcasts have overtaken AM and FM spoken word listening in the US. That's not a small feat. Radio has been around for a long time, and podcasting is still fairly new, just early 2000s. And so to see that podcasting is now superseding AM and FM radio, that is huge. And again, talks more about what our control is as podcasters and as creators. So that's cultural dominance. Podcasting is no longer emerging. It is now an infrastructure. This past Friday, I spoke to a room of 21 business leaders, entrepreneurs, Black at that, people of color. And I was speaking to them about using podcasting as the marketing machine for people to trust you and then turn them into your avid supporters. If you have a product, brand, or service that you're marketing, use podcasting. You have the long form, you have the short form, you can put out the newsletters, and it's just helping feed that ecosystem. Also in news, ad load has hit a breaking point. So some genres, especially true crime, are hitting a 34% ad load. That's 1 minute of ads for every 2 minutes of show. Listeners are noticing, and this is the warning. If your monetization strategy relies on stacking ads, you will burn trust. Smart podcasters diversify. And it's not that you need to bulk up your content with so many ads, but having maybe 1 or 2 strategically placed ads, or people who you actually work with. Maybe you have a friend or a family member who has a restaurant. Work with them as opposed to trying to find a sponsor and using certain platforms that are going to fill up your episode with ads, because you're deterring your listeners. Lastly, AI voice cleanup tools, Waves voice region. We talked about that a few weeks ago. AI tools are now offering instant voice cleanup for $4.99, upwards to $24.99. This is so that production barriers will stop dropping, entry is easier, quality expectations will continue to rise. All right, now we're entering phase 3 of podcasting. So we have phase 1, the hobby era. Let me start a podcast. Phase 2 is the monetization era. How do I get sponsors? Now, phase 3 is the ownership era. This is what I preach, teach, speak. And this is where I see my community growing to. For a while, we were podcasting for newbies, but I think it takes a mindset shift and stop speaking as if we're just beginners who don't understand what's going on. But we are now owners and creators, and we are in an ownership era. So the new serious podcaster, they build email lists. They negotiate equity. They think multi-platform. They reduce ad dependency, and they own their IP or intellectual property. They don't just want downloads, they want leverage. Last thing as I wrap, I want you all to answer me this. Do you currently own your email list? If someone offered you equity instead of a one-time payment, would you know how to evaluate it? And is your show ad heavy or trust heavy? I'll say it again. Do you currently own your own email list? If offered equity instead of a one-time payment, would you know how to evaluate it? And 3, is your show ad heavy or trust heavy? Let me know. You can write as homework. We're coming back next week. So you can write down one asset you plan to own in 2026, whether your email list, equity, or trust versus ad heavy dependency. All right. And then audit the last 5 episodes. Are they trend driven or Evergreen Authority building? Let me know. So with that, I want to close. The platforms are shifting. AI is accelerating. Ads are increasing, but trust is still rare. If you build trust in ownership, you will win long term. And if today gave you clarity, drop ownership in the chat. Share this with one podcaster who needs to hear it. And remember, you don't just host a podcast, you're building leverage with your voice. We will see you next week on Monday. And make sure you guys, again, are following and subscribe and hit that notifications bell so you know the next time we are live. I am DaniMarie, your podcast bestie, the podcast strategist, helping you stay abreast of all things podcasting. Peace.